Asia is. So we primarily are a champion for STEM. So STEM being science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We've also included arts into that. So now it's known as STEAM. Okay, so we proliferate the idea that STEM or STEAM is the way forward for not only the nation, but overall for the development of the country and to unite Malaysians as a whole. Now, the idea that STEAM becomes the pillar, or rather the center of which we should be, focusing on, is because we've noticed that one of the key problems that Malaysia is facing is a lack in STEM, not only talents, teaching, but also the opportunities that are available for high technology. So AHA, or Academy Harimau Asia as a whole, today proliferates that the idea of STEM and what should be done to help the country move forward in high technology, in science, engineering, and mathematics. We want to be an enabler for that. Now, as part of Academy Harimau Asia's initiative to proliferate and to push STEM as an accelerator for Malaysia, we have developed two key projects under AHA. One is, of course, EduPlus. EduPlus is an initiative that we do to provide free education to Form 1 to Form 5 students in our government schools in the areas of science and mathematics. And for the ones above Form 4, Form 5, is to give them free education in the areas of physics, chemistry, and maths. Now, moving forward, the other project that we are currently actually working on is called Communities for Tomorrow. So Communities for Tomorrow is an initiative whereby we want to create a community, or we want to create communities in Malaysia that can help us develop and also open up opportunities for high technology, engineering, mathematics for all Malaysians, because we believe the future of Malaysia is in the area of technology, is in the area of engineering, and science technology should be on the forefront of development for this country. So, as an initiative to basically get the conversation started about STEAM and also about how do we prepare ourselves to move forward, today we have invited an esteemed panel of speakers today. We are very proud and thankful to have all of them here. So we hope that this talk today about getting our act together and how can we come up with a new strategy for Malaysia moving forward, especially in the areas whereby we want to focus on the next frontier, meaning for a while we have seen how Malaysia has developed in certain areas. Now, what's the next step forward for us? How do we move forward as a country, as a nation, in the areas of high technology, in the area of moving or pushing for new digital and technopreneurs in this country? So with that, I would like to pass the floor back to Zaim. Thank you so much, Zaim, for allowing me the introduction.
Thank you, Marcus, and welcome everyone for everyone to those who are joining us here on Zoom and also those on Facebook. For the purpose of this session, what's important is actually what happens after this event, because this event is live on Facebook, and I think AHA will promote this event post of this session. So a lot of people will be viewing this event after this event itself. So don't worry about the numbers here, because what's going to happen, what will be important is what happens when we promote this to the public. Okay, so I want to welcome all of our panelists for joining us today. Just to recap what Marcus said, the topic of today is getting our act together, Malaysia's new strategy, and also the idea of building communities for tomorrow. And we have three esteemed panelists joining us today. First is YB Dr. Ong Kian Ming, Member of Parliament for Bangi, and also he was an MP for Sedang before this. So welcome, YB. Second, we have another YB Senator Wan Ahmad Faizal, Deputy Minister of National Unity. Welcome, YB Senator. And thirdly, we have Dr. Madeline Burma, Fellow of Academy Science Malaysia, and also a very prominent academic. For today, she has requested that I call her Dr. Madeline Saja. So that's hopefully that's okay with everyone else also. The format of this event is going to be santai, so relax, nothing too formal, nothing too serious. I will ask a series of questions to all panelists, and we will go on for about 1 hour and 20 minutes. halfway through the discussion, I will open the question for Q&A from the floor and also from Facebook Live, which we will monitor for questions. Kalau tak ada soalan, saya akan tanya soalan lah. Okay, so hopefully that will be okay for all the even the people watching today. So I will start in the order of I will start with Wadi Kening first, followed by Senator Muhammad Faizal, and then finally Datuk Dr. Madeline Burma. Okay? So starting dengan actually the one question I want to ask before we get to the serious stuff is, can you introduce yourself and also maybe share a fun fact about you that most people wouldn't know about you, or something that most people wouldn't know, right? I think, can we do that? I think just as a form of introduction. Also, maybe I also don't know some things about our three panelists. So share about yourself in any way you want, and also maybe share something that people may not know about you. It can be a fun fact, hobby, something that we don't know about you. And then we get to the serious stuff. Okay, I'll pass the floor to Wadi Kening for introduction.
Thanks, Zaim, to my esteemed panelists, Dr. Matt, Senator, Marcus, everyone. Let's see, introductions. Maybe something that's not so well known about myself. I'm a Lhasa PJ boy, grew up in PJ. Still consider myself a PJ boy, even though I've spent some time overseas. One little fact that people may not know about me is that I like to play with the Rubik's Cube during my spare time, and I can finish a Rubik's Cube in slightly under 1 minute.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh.
Wait, follow up. How long have you been playing with the Rubik's Cube? That you've got
I learned it when I was 15, so I've been doing it since then. So maybe after, so I mixed it up already. So after the introductions from Senator, I'll show you that I can finish it. Okay.
Oh, wow. steady power. Thank you so much. Okay. Maybe Senator Muhammad Faizal, floor is yours.
Sorry, Zaim, I need to introduce something about me that you don't know.
Yes, and the people don't know. Fun fact. There's something people don't know about you.
Okay. Fun fact, that's difficult. Maybe many people doesn't know that I was a student of philosophy before I became what I am today, but I did not complete my first master's because of my involvement with 1MDB struggle. So yeah, that was a fun fact that kept hidden for quite some time.
Oh,
Wow.
okay. Student of philosophy. Thank you so much, Senator, for sharing. Okay, last one, Dr. Madeline. Dr. Madeline,
Okay.
floor is yours.
Okay, number one, my name is Madeline Burma. People always confuse me with Myanmar. Are you from Myanmar? I'm not. I am Madeline Anak Burma. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I love Japanese classical music. They call it enka. Young, where they really like, oh, I love it, and I have my own favorite singer. She really is my favorite. Every time when I drive, I do my work and everything, so I will play this classical music. I used to like European classical, but after knowing this Japanese, they call it enka, E-N-K-A. So I am really into it. And second thing, I love history and poetry. That's it. People always thought that it's about economics or poverty. So that's basically it, Zaim. How boring can it be?
Interesting. No, interesting. So thank you for all the panelists. Sorry, I've never done it before. I think it's interesting how everyone has varying interests. FYI, masa kita tengah buat this introduction, Wadi Kening dia tunjuk Rubik's Cube, dia dah habiskan dah.
Dia dah habis dah? Ya
habiskan.
ampun.
So, okay. Okay, let's jump into discussion. So, as an introduction to the session, we're going to talk about Malaysia's challenges. So not necessarily problems, just challenges. What are the challenges? And let's focus in terms of long-term challenges that Malaysia is going through. So to kick off, so the first question, back to for the Kening, and actually I will ask this question for all three panelists, which is the same question, which is, what are the long-term key challenges that Malaysia has been and will face in the long term? So you can define long-term as 10 years, 20, 30 years, but what do you feel and what do you think and believe are the long-term key challenges that Malaysia will face? So not looking at the next few months, next many, many years from now. So maybe we'll start with on camera, then we'll go down the list.
What is a tricky topic? Okay, I'll start with one that may be a bit offensive to some people, but I hope that in the spirit of discussion we can talk about it openly. This is a challenge, long-term challenge to any country, any corporation, any government, which is the issue of leadership. And I think we've seen the importance of having good leaders, especially in government during this COVID-19 pandemic, whereby we have seen the variable performance of different ministers under this and also the previous PN government. We've seen some ministers perform quite well in terms of being responsive to the public and also good at executing their jobs. Namely the current health minister, Khairi Jamaluddin, and then also I think Tengku Zafrul has also been quite proactive, although he's come under a lot of pressure. But at the same time, we see very poor leadership in many other ministries. I don't need to name them. I think many of your readers, many of your audience can tell for themselves. And I think this is part and parcel of the longer term challenge, which is we do not get the best and the brightest involved in positions of leadership, especially in government, right? So a lot of people who I think, a professional background like Zaim perhaps, would not want to get his hands dirty by going into full-time politics. Yeah, you prefer to be out in the private sector, in the public policy, private sector space, so to speak. And I think this is something that is a long-term challenge for the country, because if we have people who are very short-term in their thinking, who are not able to grasp the complexities of policy design and also execution, what will end up is that we will be slowly like a frog boiled in hot water, and before we know it, we would be in a situation where we would lose out to some of our regional competitors already. I think you know who they are. Some of them who are ahead of us, some of them who are behind us but catching up very rapidly. Countries like Vietnam, for example. So I think this is probably the main thing that I want to highlight. I'm sure that there'll be others that the others will want to focus on as well. Issue of leadership.
Bobby, just a quick follow-up, man. Leadership to some people may seem a bit intangible. I mean, how do you quantify it? How do you measure it? Are we talking about leadership in terms of the performance of the ministers or leadership in general? Is it a problem in terms of political leadership, but also corporate leadership, NGO leadership, or how would you define this?
Okay, so I would say in terms of people who are involved in politics, you need a cohort of good leaders at the second, at the top, second and third line. So you need to have good succession planning in terms of bringing in good people in your rank and file. That actually is something that all companies have to do as well, right? You have to make sure that you have somebody after Steve Jobs, let's say, who can continue to helm the ship, but that also means that you have a good talent development program at your C-suite level. Right now, I don't really see that happening in many political parties in Malaysia, and the result is that we see leaders in government, especially among political parties, that are not able to grasp policies, that are not able to grasp logic. So I don't really attribute a very high bar in terms of performance as a minister. You must be able to have press conferences where the media can ask you different questions and you can answer them in a way that is convincing to the public. You must know your brief. You don't ask us to go and drink air swam when as a cure for COVID. So I mean, those are very basic things, and I think this is where good leadership, down the ranks actually matters, not just for government, but also for educational institutions like our public universities, and also corporate sectors like the GLCs.
All right, thank you, YB, for the clarification as well. So issue of leadership at the highest level and how that impacts the future of Malaysia. Now let's jump into YB Senator Muhammad Faisal for your take in terms of long-term key challenges that Malaysia has been, or will be facing?
First and foremost, thank you, Zaim, as a moderator tonight, and to Academy Harimau Asia for hosting this very thoughtful session, and to esteemed panelists, Dr. Ong Kiang Ming, hopefully you are recovering well, Dr. Madeline Burma, and the rest of audience. My view is this: what are the long-term challenges that might be setting Malaysians, or in fact our generation? I think it's the continuous institutional reforms that I think is the main challenge that Malaysians at large collectively has to deal in order to fulfill our destiny or our potential. Because I think we have been tested quite severely for the past 10 years with regard to this sort of thing, especially when we have to be dealing with numerous scandals that has basically derailed our development trajectory, as what was declared by Prime Minister, the 7th Prime Minister, Dr. Mahathir, right after he helmed Pakatan Harapan. He personally declared that Vision 2020 has to be delayed for another 2 years. Okay, that was then 2018. Now with COVID in place, we have to delay further our goalposts for us to become a developed nation, because for the next 2 years at least, we have to be in a mode of recovery mode rather than really planning our direction. I had a long chat with many captain of industries who are not biased to any political parties. And coming from a politician from the government myself, I do believe that for the next 2 years, it's all about recovery. But we do need a proper and robust debate in parliament, in public sphere about the long-term plan or development for the nation. Yeah, and good thing is we have various policy documents like 12 Mission Plan, Vision 2030. Those are a framework. Yeah, we do need more detailed elaboration at SME level, at the regional level. What are our policy choices that could really spell out or yield the intended result that we want? And I think these are the challenges that, intellectually speaking, that we must debate and discuss, of course, especially on bipartisan basis. And I think what we had done before, at least in Parliament, I think it's not enough. I think we need more time and more critical topics to be discussed. And in the long run, I think besides leadership issues, as what Dr. Kiang Ming rightly pointed, I have to agree on that, is that the institution themselves, regardless whoever becoming ministers, if those institutions are in place, I think we can sail through the storm, regardless whatever come to hit us. I think these are the issues that might be, I believe, are important for next at least 10 years.
Thank you, YB Senator. This discussion is interesting. What YB Ong Kiang Ming and Muhammad Faisal mentioned, I'm reminded of a Nigerian writer, Achebe, who talks about leaders, systems, followers. And I think that the first two are important. I think the leaders and the character of leaders is important, also as the systemic, what YB Senator mentioned, is systemic reforms. You need both of these to go hand in hand. Good leaders, also a good system to make sure that the governance is strong and that Malaysia can become a successful nation. Let's jump into the Matt for her take. Dr. Matt, mute.
Thank you, Zaim. Thank you for the kind introduction. And I'm really, intrigued by Dr. Ong mind that rubric. I think if you give me another 1 year, so I'm not really sure whether I can even handle that. You see, look at the level of his, But then, of course, I always say that, I'm an art student, so we tend to be more creative. So it's okay. So thank you. All right. Now, when you talk about something that is in the long term, I would see maybe what I consider systemic. Okay. I come from an academic background. Now I work with Suhakam, where we talk about rights and we talk about reform. I think just now YB Senator did mention about institutional reform. And of course, YB, let me just, what are the things that I agree with both of them? One, yes, definitely leadership, not just political leadership. If we look at, I'm not too sure about the private sector, but coming from the university, look at our university. It is so ethnicized. I mean, I was in the university as a student, then I became a lecturer, and then I retired. So towards the end of my career at the university, I come from UKM, nama sedap tau. University Kebangsaan Malaysia. My understanding of kebangsaan means kebangsaan, bukan Universiti Melayu. Okay? Or University Bumi Putra. Now I consider myself Bunyi Putra. Not even sure whether they always laugh at me. Yeah, it is a joke, but it is something that we must look at. Do I have the same kind of, if you want to consider whatever it is, and the 30% is called Bumi Putra, I'm not too sure whether me or the orang asli or the orang asal of Sabah and Sarawak can be considered as Bumi Putra, or are we just Bunyi Putra? That's number one, okay? Now, the most important thing for me, when I said about systemic tadi, I do agree about young leadership. Memang look at our universities, look at our civil service, look at whatever it is, all right? It is very ethnicized, it's politicized and ethnicized. You just go to the IPTAs. I'm not going to name which IPTAs, but it became a political playground for our politicians. I'm not going to name which politicians, but basically, these are things that we know already. It has been there, and we really hope for the future that we need to come back, and a university should be to play that role, the role of a university. The second thing I will relate is to human capital development. I am really concerned about that. Under human capital development, there are three things. One, education. Number two, skills development. Three, health. All right? So these three things, if the way I look at our education, I remember in one seminar I attended, or rather in a seminar, it was a seminar in Sarawak. Somebody said, Wi-Fi, okay, wire ada, Wi-Fi tiada. During the COVID, wire ada because of our, nobody is going out in the rivers of Sarawak. So buaya melambat buaya. So, but dia kata Wi-Fi tiada. So we climb mountains, we don't have mountains lah. We climb hills, we climb everything. Ketawa Zaim, because you must tell your wife that. Okay, so we have Wi-Fi tiada. Now, this is a systemic problem. It is not something that happened last night, or the day before yesterday, or the years before that. Then, of course, yes, we can blame federal. It's so easy to always pinpoint at somebody else. But we have our own ministry, we are even our ministers. And the state of Sarawak is one of the richest state, supposedly. So to me, I'm not blaming the state, but what I'm trying to say, these are things that we cannot be saying, oh, that is the role of federal, this is the role of the state. We have federal list, upper state list. Okay, so I think that is something maybe in Parliament, let them work that out. Let me just point it out. And education. So of course, it's about equity. It's not about equality. When we talk about equality, you give equal things to everyone. But when we talk about equity, we are talking about giving them based on their needs. And also there is this big discussion about, is it about opportunities or is it about outcomes? Equality of opportunities or equality of outcomes? I think these are the kind of things that we need to debate for the future. Second thing, skill. Ya ampun. Look at the latest report, whatever, every year, Dawson report, two things that came out. Unemployment, graduate unemployment is 25%. That is a well-known fact. Number two, underemployment. I'm sure Dr. Ong dah tahu cerita ni. Underemployment, one, skills related. The other one is time related. Skills related mean what? They are doing jobs that are below their qualification. The word is decent jobs. Okay, I'm just kind of repeating. Now the problem starts when we start translating decent job to kerja bermaruah Dah satu masalah pula. Marahlah pula Grab driver, marah the e-hailing. What do you think? Dia kata, apakah you rasa kerja kami ini tidak bermaruah? It was kind of, the translation was not, it was incorrectly translated. So a few academics will be blamed for using the term pekerjaan yang tidak bermaruah. Yeah? So balik pada cerita tu, so the skills related, we were so happy. Yeah, we are going into digitalization. We are going into blah, blah, blah. But look at where they are working. We are talking about the bottom of the pyramid. Our people are working as what? I'm not demeaning or whatever it is, but I said when we talk about digitalization, we talk 4IR, let us talk about realities. Who are there? What kind of jobs? You know, people are talking about jobs for the future, right? So that is for skills. Yeah? Our TVET, where is our TVET? I cannot imagine the amount of money that has been spent on education. That I must congratulate the government. But look at the outcome. Where are we when it comes to times? We just need to cross the river. Don't check where our neighbors is. Because I was in the Jatan Kuasa during PH under YB Mazli. Just like to one last point. I was under YB Mazli. We were doing we were in the Jatan Kuasa kajian semula dasar. We spent over 20 million to do a big blueprint. God knows what happened to blue. Now it become green, or purple, or what, I also don't know. So we reviewed it. So of course, one of the biggest challenges, the quality of our education. We need to grapple with that, and we need to recognize that it is a problem. Let us not play with figures. You know what? Malaysia now is a country everybody wants to run to because they want to learn. How did we manage during the COVID? We had the best results in the last 5 years. Our SPM result were the best. People were wondering, maybe we should go to Malaysia. So yes, we are doing very well as far as SPM result is concerned. So the last thing, health. So that I will not go into detail, but as long as we do not deal with our health, COVID-19 really, really reveal the gap. So health is one, accessibility to quality health, and of course in the future is healthcare, not just health. And the cost of health. How do that answers now, present, and future? Thank you, Zaim. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Matt. Very honest assessment. And Dr. Matt, when I was hearing you speak, you have so many zingers tau. Bunyi putra, buaya ada, buaya ada, wifi tak ada. You know, sometimes macam kalau I tutup mata, mungkin inilah ketua berbangkang parlimen kan. Sangat-sangat menarik. You punya cara you express your point. But thank you so much. Very, very honest assessment. And I think the point here these are not political issues. These are actual issues. And I think this is something that both government, opposition, and everyone else will agree on that we need to address as a country. I want to jump back to Wadi Ong Keming. And obviously the context here is that recently Pakatan Harapan and the government signed an MOU on political transformation and stability. And this was historic because it's the first time, even in the region, government and opposition works together. In fact, in the region itself, the government and opposition are very polarized. Look at Thailand, look at Indonesia, look at other countries. But Malaysia is setting a certain tone to say that we are working together, especially in the times of COVID-19. Now, on the spirit of bipartisanship, how then can the political class, regardless of political affiliation, Pakatan Harapan, Barisan Nasional, Perikatan Nasional, Bebas, Muda, how then can the political class come together to get its act together when it comes to the issue of leadership deficit, which you mentioned, but also in terms of institutional reforms and maybe some of the key issues that Dr. Matt mentioned just now, human capital development. How then can the political class come together to address these issues?
Okay, yeah, thanks, Zach. Very good question. I think the MOU has opened up doors to many people in Malaysia on how we can try to do things differently. But before I go into that, I will also have to say that no matter what kind of MOU has been signed, we would still continue to play our role of check and balance in the public square, in the public sphere, as well as in Parliament. I think that one is something that is understood by all sides. And if let's say there's a change in government, we expect, and we are back in government, we expect the opposition to play that role as well. However, that being said, I think there are a couple of things that we can try to do differently, from now until the next election that can maybe set the path for a future kind of political maturity and cooperation among all political parties. And I'll give you a few examples. I think one is we need to show good examples of how politicians on both sides of the aisle can work together in a constructive manner. So, for example, I was fortunate enough to be named by the Menteri Besar of Selangor with the agreement of YB Kari Jamaluddin to be part of the Operation Surge Capacity that was very successful in vaccinating. Now we know more than 100% of the population in Klang Valley, the adult population in Klang Valley. And I think that was a very fruitful discussion. What I think many people would not have realized is that there was a lot of informal communication between the different leaders involved, so that there was a certain level of trust that was built, right? And even though, for example, I'm the only opposition MP who sits in at these vaccination meetings that's comprised mostly of federal officials and some state officials, I do not use that information to try to attack the federal government or point out their weaknesses, right? So I think with that spirit of trust and that kind of cooperation would be much easier to do. And I think it takes all sides to be able to work together on this. So, for example, if I'm going to reach out and work together with somebody like Khairi or even any other minister that's part of this government, maybe Senator Ahmad Faisal, there needs to be trust on the grassroots among political parties as well, right? So, Bersatu rank and file cannot attack senator for working together with a member of the opposition, right? And then my party, they cannot punish me, or they should not punish me for let's say at party elections or whatnot, for wanting to work with the government if, let's say, there can be positive results that can be achieved. I think one of the benefits of us having been in government before, it's really, I think, essential for us to put that experience into implementation and work, so that we can work together with government, with MPs, with ministers, with deputies, with the KSUs of those ministries that we're familiar with, in order to push a progressive agenda for the country moving forward. Yeah.
Thanks, will be balanced answer, and also you're right. I think the time for polarization is over. I think we need to come together, especially during crisis. I think everyone needs to come together to make sure that we take this problems head on. There's a question by Azim, and I think YB, if you don't mind, I'm just going to jump, just stick with you for a follow-up, and then we'll jump to YB or Faisal after this. And Azim asked a very interesting question about middle income trap, and this is not a new problem. It's been going on for decades and decades. The idea that productivity is dropping, that our comparative advantage in oil and gas, palm oil are in decline. How do we position Malaysia in the context of global supply chain? But even more than that, how do we make Malaysia how do we increase the attractiveness of Malaysia to foreign investors, to global, to superpowers between the US and China and other countries, EU. And if you were to look at that, step lower to that, what are the particular industries that you feel are comparative advantage? Are they still E&E? Is it still oil and gas? Is it still palm oil and rubber? Or are there other emerging industries that are relevant, like smart city initiatives, leveraging on ABCD technologies, AI, big data, and all that? And I think the last part of the question is, what can we sell to the world, right? So I think that's sort of a very interesting, snappy question. So YB, could you look to hear your take on this?
Yeah, sure. First of all, the notion of a middle income trap is something that people like to bring up to show that, yes, this is a challenge that Malaysia faces, and we need to address a lot of the institutional problems that we have. But it's a little bit of red herring, because if we were to grow continuously at 4 to 5%, real GDP growth per year, we would eventually move to a high income status country. In fact, if you look at the average GDP per capita figures in a state like Selangor and KL, we are already considered to be a high income country. but only in selected parts of the country, not in Sabah and Sarawak, which I'm sure Dr. Matt is well aware of, right? So, of course, COVID has turned this upside down in the sense that we've suffered economic, contraction last year, and I don't expect us to grow by much this year as well. So it will take a little bit of time to catch up, like what Senator Muhammad Faisal said earlier. So, the issue of middle income trap is something that we shouldn't focus or obsess too much about. We should actually just focus on the need to make sure that our growth can rebound back and we can maintain a growth of about 4 to 5%. In terms of how to make ourselves more attractive to foreign investors, what is the comparative advantage that we have, and what are the sectors that we want to focus on. I want to sort of like disabuse us of the notion that there is one or two sectors that we need to focus on. Of course, if let's say I had to put on my meaty hat, I would say E&E sector, it contributes to a large proportion of our GDP, of our trade surplus. A lot of foreign investors treats Malaysia as an important E&E sector, in part of the supply chain. A lot of investors from China and US are coming in here because of the US-China trade war. Yes, that is for certain. But the very fact that what you said just now, we have a diversified economy. We have palm oil, we have manufacturing, we have FDI in services as well. We are good shared services, business services location because we are sort of like a more cost-effective location compared to Singapore. So what actually we should focus on is not one particular sector. We should actually focus on like what Dr. Madeline said just now, skills development in areas of the economy that are growing across all sectors. Right. So, for example, if you're a big data analyst, right, you can apply those skills in agriculture. How to make our agriculture sector more productive using drone technology, using IoT devices to measure the fertility of the soil, very basic things like that, which we're not doing, right? Rather than spending R500 million every year on fertilizers for the farmers, which a lot of it is actually wasted, right? So if we have that kind of mindset, and if let's say one example that I'll give you before pass it on to the other speakers, we talk about Industry 4.0 a lot, right? And when you talk about Industry 4.0, people will focus on MITI because we were the first one to come up with a blueprint or a framework. Last year when Khairi was still the minister for MOSTI, they announced the MOSTI's Industry 4.0 framework. But what I recommended in some of the writings that I've done, and also in this response to the 12 Malaysia plan that I co-authored with a few of my colleagues at REFSA, was that each ministry should come up with their own Industry 4.0 framework so that all the skills that are needed and required in Industry 4.0 can be implemented or pushed forward, including all the skills development training that you need in each of the sector, each of the institutions, each of the policy areas that each ministry is in charge of. It can be from tourism to agriculture to palm oil. Obviously, MITI would be, a little bit more direct, but other things are also very important. To even youth and sports, Senator Muhammad Faisal's former ministry, right? How do we use big data to again keep track of those participants at some of the mass participation events that are going to start in Malaysia very soon? How do we, collect data on COVID testing, before these participants, engage in these kinds of international events? We have, I like running, right? London Marathon was held last week. Last weekend, Chicago Marathon, Boston Marathon was held, and they had 30,000, 40,000 participants, right? Even though, the cases in the US and UK are still high, they managed to follow certain protocols so that can happen. So I think these are the kind of forward-thinking measures that we need across all sectors.
Great. So, using fourth industrial revolution technologies like AI, big data, blockchain, 5G as foundational technologies in all ministries, right? These are not just a specific ministry initiative, but it should be cut across all ministries using as foundational technologies that all ministries should be using. It's a good point. I think sometimes we don't really see that policy application. Bobby Senator, I want to jump into just a slightly different. When it comes to national unity, right? And this is also another aspect. A lot of Malaysians talk about national unity because this is globally, the societies are more polarized. People are becoming either more conservative or more liberal, and the space for the moderation in between is getting smaller. Also, this is a key issue. What do you see as in the context of our discussion, long-term challenges, institutional reform that we mentioned, economic challenges? What do you see as your role as a Deputy Minister of National Unity in terms of addressing these issues, but maybe focusing on that national unity component? Because I think a lot of us are curious in terms of what can be done, especially from your angle. So, Vicente, if you don't mind sharing.
Okay. Well, it's a very complex question, but I'll try my best to answer honestly. I think the role of my ministry cut across all other ministries when it comes to create a viable communities or society that is progressive enough to embrace development for the country. Why I say this, because if you all know, Malaysia is still young in relation or relatively compared to other nation states in this planet. So one of our mission when we embark on the economic development, part of it is still about ensuring the society are well taken care when it comes to distributive justice. Yeah, I think this is what Dr. Madeline Burma has said, and also one of her expertise. Yeah, how best to ensure equity for everyone, either inter-ethnic or even regionally. I think unity is the end result or the part of the objective that we would like to achieve out of our economic development. And it is also a prerequisite for us to grow further. If we have an unstable political or socio-political situation, it will of course derail the plan that has been put on by the government for us to progress. I think lesson learned can be derived from whether in the West, either in Europe or in the US. They are mature democracies, but they too are struggling when it comes to race relation or immigration issues. When I was studying in King's about 4 years ago, when Trump was still the president of the US, one of the major topic discussions in our lecture is all about immigration policies. How the Western countries, despite being egalitarian so-called, or more open, suddenly retreat to identity politics, something that has not been seen for quite some time, because they view such politics to be more primitive. But populism grew, and that really impact their economic plans. For example, Brexit. Those who voted for Brexit were not the young people who are more liberal in their outlook, in the sense that they would like to work in other European countries, marry other neighboring countries. They have more open lifestyle compared to the older generations who voted for Brexit because of afraid some of their local jobs being taken over by foreigners or by immigrants. So the same thing we can relate to Malaysian context. If we fail to create a proper national unity programs or ideas or narrative that is really something solid, that we can agree upon and embraced by everyone across every race and also region, I think that's the prerequisite for us to really becoming a real developed country. So my role as a Deputy Minister of National Unity is to support this development agenda of the government, as what already been outlined prior. For example, the Shared Prosperity 2030, it was hatched during PH government, continued by Perikatan Nasional's government, and now the Tuan Malaysian Plan is first half of the story, the first 5 years. And I think today, Dr. Madeline Burma, she's one of the fellows of Institute Masa Depan Malaysia. The think tank was responsible in creating that 10-year plan or 10-year plan or framework. So one of the major objectives of that plan is about national unity. And I believe it cannot account this work. For example, rukun tetangga, yeah, but it creates a viable playing field for everyone to work on as part of nation building. So it's not glamorous in comparison to MITI or other ministries, but it's one of the most important things to ensure stability for economic growth. I think my role is to support that, to create a more unifying narrative, especially among the youngsters, so that we can focus more on the common challenges rather than our differences. I think compared to the older generation, I think the youngsters in Malaysia are more open for this. Thank you.
Maybe just on your point, and I think your ministry is doing important role, as you mentioned. I remember before it was a ministry, it was Jabatan Perpaduan Negeri dan Integrasi Nasional, and now it's upgraded to a whole ministry. So obviously the government is taking this issue seriously. You talk about youth. I want to ask a question about the impact of Undi 18. I can't remember the exact number of how many million young voters to be part of the electoral roll. I think over 3 million or so. What do you think would be the impact of Undi 18, the voters between 18 and 20 years old, on Malaysian politics? What is your take? Because a lot of people, they have wide-ranging views. Some people say, tak ada impact. Some people say, alah, ini semua, penyokong pembangkang kan. So, they are not nuanced views lah kan. They're not nuanced and balanced views. But what is your take in terms of the impact on 18 on Malaysian politics? Specifically, we're talking about firstly on the election outcome, if there is an impact, and secondly on the way political parties have to adapt their policies towards them. So election, and also the other one is political parties policy, the impact on these two things.
Definitely, Undi 18 is a game changer. It will definitely change the political landscape because more voters, first-time voters will be coming in. Hopefully, they go out and vote. But the challenge, I think, no pollsters or research bodies can predict the trajectory of the change, because I think it's hard to cluster or characterize the young voters. They differ by age group. Maybe the school leavers have different concerns compared to those who just graduated. And those who are doing part-time jobs in gig economy, and maybe differ in terms of region. The urban youth could be having different concerns than the rural areas. Maybe the rural areas are more sensitive to identity politics. Yeah, for example, the ADIP issues now being brought up again. It has a bearing on in Malay political scene. Especially within the UMNO circle. So this thing is very tough to predict. But I think it will create a positive change to the country. Because why? Political parties are forced to embrace such change, and what we call, they will have to factor in a proper plan of succession in terms of enlisting new candidates for certain seats that have serious bearing on the new voters, especially in urban areas. And I think I have to salute DAP for this, for being very brave and bold to introduce and giving a lot of chances to younger candidates across, not just Chinese candidates, but also Malay candidates. And I think many political parties have to follow suit because of this. And I believe Malacca will be a good testing ground, although it's not going to be MD 18 election because of still we haven't completed the SPR's registration issue, but we can gauge the mood when it comes to how political parties will feel their new candidates among the youngsters. And I believe political parties like UMNO especially, who have a lot of warlords, have to really think hard how best to plan their Undi 18 strategy. I think Bersatu is a little bit easier because we are not bogged down by legacy issues, but we still do have our own challenges, and our membership, half of it are Armada, meaning the youth. So I think we do have some leverage when it comes to putting right candidates upcoming election, but the new voters are up for grabs for everyone. No one has the monopoly over these voters. Muda might claim they have that strong youth support, but if you ask me, maybe among urban voters, youth voters in urban area, yeah. But what about those who study in madrasah, in the rural areas, in Felda? They have different outlook than what Syed Saddiq trying to champion. Although there might be overlapping issues where everyone might be on the same page, even Armada, Muda, DAP Socialist Youth, Forward, and the rest. But different youth have different ideas about politics. So I think it's going to be very interesting for the first time to see the pattern of saluran 5 and 6. Thank you.
Thank you, Walbi Muhammad Faisal. I wonder, this question kita akan ajukan to Wajib later on, if we have time. I want to jump to Dr. Matt. Dr. Matt, so the 12th Malaysia Plan recently was launched and also passed in Parliament with the idea of building a prosperous, inclusive, and sustainable Malaysia. There are 3 themes: resetting the economy, strengthening security, well-being, and inclusivity, and advancing sustainability. So saying all the right things right, so far. And one of the things that was under these 3 themes, under policy enablers, is developing future talent. And I think just now you mentioned about skills development, under human capital development. This is under the 12th Malaysia Plan. They understand this is an issue, and actually there are 14 game changers, and some of them are talking about future talent development. Do you think it is enough what government is doing, or first, is the focus correct? Second, are we doing enough? And third, if we're not doing enough, what else should we be thinking about? So mungkin tak payah cakap pasal 12 Malaysia Plan pun, maybe in general also, maybe in terms of government policy, what should the government be focusing on? Are they doing enough? And if not enough, what should they be doing? I just want to get your take, please. And you're on mute, sorry, but no problem.
Same. Really tough question. Mengalahkan Viva PhD. Thank you. Now, my answer, we need to revamp our education system. The whole system. Selagi kita berada seperti apa yang kita ada sekarang, we will still get the same result. You go to the IPTAs, it will be almost 80 or 90% dominated by a particular ethnic group. And the agenda, the education system, the syllabus, kalau even you tengok masa during orientation and everything, dia tak ada cerita lain. You know, okay, so let's not go into that, but what I'm trying to say, okay, that is university level. And even agenda perbincangan pun will not go, berputar kat situ. So why am I talking about revamp the system? Because COVID-19 provided us with that opportunity. The opportunity for us to think differently, to do things differently, not just asalkan jadi je lah. Although it's not easy, I really have to admit, I don't want to be in the position of all the YBs here. Senang-senang lah you cakap sebab you are one of those netizen, boleh tekan-tekan je, YB senator, duduk bercerita tentang perpaduan, kau main lagi. Madeline bila dia, I was in one of the lab. That is also the same thing I was talking about. Because to me, selagi kita do the way we are doing things the way it is, we will get the same results. That was my understanding. So, balik kepada cerita tadi. Now, earlier on before we started, Marky, whatever, Marky, how I pronounce his name? Marcus, okay. Because I was using the frame. He was talking about STEM, okay? And he mentioned also the word STEAM, We are very happy with it.
It works for.
Sorry. Oh, I ingatkan ada orang bertanya soalan. Okay, balik pada cerita tadi. Now I lost my train of thoughts. Okay, we were talking about, everybody was talking about, yes, we must go into STEM, STEM. And we really must, we recognize the fact that STEM was very, very important in terms of now and for the future. That we cannot deny. That's number one. Number two, I would like to highlight the fact that STEM is really necessary for response to COVID, the immediate response to COVID. You need the doctors, you need blah, blah, blah. But for recovery, what we need is not STEAM. What we need is SHAPE, shape. Now, in England, I think if I'm not mistaken, under LSE, they have this movement. They was talking about the role of social science, S, social science, H, humanities, A, arts for people and economy. SHAPE. We realize now that you cannot just focus on science, technology, engineering, mathematics. What happened? Who is going to speak to the orang kampung to tell them to get the vaccine? How, when we talk to the, orang asli, when they found out that we are coming, they ran away into the forest because they said, this KKM, bukan boleh percaya pun. They inject, we cannot trust them. So the issue about, and orang Iban dia kan cerita kubit dia, and how they self-isolate themselves. And the policies that the government put in place is typically one size fits all. What is good for urban areas, what is good for the Semenanjung is always considered good for rural. Can you imagine when they implemented the lockdown, how it affected the rural communities, those in the interior? Where are they going to get? Their supermarket is not the kedai like what I have here in Bandar Baru Bangi. I just walk, I just have to take a drive. There will be an Aceh punya kedai. I just contact, Grab akan hantar my food. Their supermarket is the forest. And they cannot go out to the forest. That is their culture. That is where tempat permainan dia. Macam dia orang kata, that is our supermarket. You lock down our supermarket, but you open the supermarket in urban areas. You do this, you do that. Only Madeline lah, Malaysia. So we got this. Of course, I did lah. We in Swakam, we did write to the state, and not write lah. We did mention to them, please, this. If you read in the papers, it took them, those from the interior, about 3 to 4 hours on a boat ride just to go to a center, just to get to merentas daerah. Okay, once they got the letter, itu belum lagi PDRM kata dokumen ni tak betul, IC ni, can you go for Xeroxing? Because I have to go through that. Minta orang kampung pergi Xerox 2 salinan. Memang sumpit hidup-hidup. Okay, once you get the document, then another 3 or 4 hours to go to the bank. When you arrive at the bank, by then the bank dah tutup. Because why? Because bantuan kerajaan diberi melalui bank. Kenapalah tidak guna? We already have our handphone. If you can do so many things with the handphone, I'm sure dekat kementerian ramai orang cerdik pandang. We paid millions of dollars to pay consultant. I don't know how much to pay for my sejahtera. I don't know. But to me, these are things that we need. That's why it's important for us to hear voices from the ground, voices from the community. So I'm not saying government purposely does it. It's just sometimes they overlook, dia terlupa, bahawa benda begini boleh berlaku. So balik kepada cerita, for the future, what to me, what is most important, the education system. Balik kepada tadi, ada wire, Wi-Fi tak ada. It is not just about gadgets. It is not about gadgets. Gadgets is just one of it. What we're talking about here is about equity, access to quality education. You can now be in the right of Kuala Lumpur, duduk dekat RPR, tingkat, God knows what tingkat that is, you also cannot have access to your PDPR. So it's no longer the rural or urban, it's now whether you have access to One of course gadget lah, data lah. Belum cerita pasal kualiti. Dia kata soalan nak di-upload, nak dekat nak sejam soalan. Lah, our teachers are so dedicated. Soalan berjela-jela. By the time they finish uploading, habis dah data. So basically, but for me, education needs to be really. In fact, somebody asked me a few days ago, harapan, my wish list, kan budget 2021 is coming, 2022 is coming up. What is your wish list, Dr. Madeline? So they were talking about, I said, my only wish list is that I wish the government can allocate a special fund for lost learning generation, because I see that the whole cohort gone, and it will take us years to recover, to compensate for the lost learning generation. So it's not only just the rural people. Itu jangan cerita lah. Macam YB Senator akan kata kalau yang he was talking about warlords in UMNO, I was talking about wire and also lack of access to Wi-Fi. So it's not only access to Wi-Fi, but also it's about equity. And just to share one last point, I remember during my jawatankuasa penilaian semula kajian dasar tu di bawah YB Mazli, so we need to come up with new ideas. Kononnya masa tu. Now I think dia orang guna that laporan bungkus entah mana lah untuk buat nasi lemak ke apa, I pun tak tahu. Nobody reads that laporan. Luckily we were not paid any money for that. Really? No, there was no. It was only a jawatankuasa punya tanggungjawab. Okay? So during that discussion, we had to interview a school in Australia. So we interviewed this rural school. Kalau kat sini is really interior and indigenous and aborigine. So we interviewed this guy where he was staying with his grandfather, but he has access to education. With all, I'm not talking about gadgets. How they schedule it in such a way that he can come at certain time, yet he can live with his grandfather, practice the way that they want to practice, so he doesn't lose his indigenous knowledge, which we are fast losing in our country. We do not know anything. We have never learned from the orang asal. We have never learned anything. Why? Because we consider them as unimportant, because they are not graduates from the top universities. They are not even graduates, but we don't think that they have important information. But in the future, when SHAPE is going to be, the way forward, where social sciences, humanities, and politics will be part and parcel of, to shape, people and economy. I do hope that the role of this knowledge will be given due consideration, because at the moment, if you look at it, nobody wants to send their children to take up arts. Anak yang tak pandai aja pergi arts. Anak yang pandai pergi medik. Everybody want to send their children to medik. Everybody want to have their children jadi doctor, jadi engineer. That's why this morning when we had our webinar on mental health, that was highlighted. Parents tak aci je, they want their children to live their dreams. It's not for the children. So I think for the future, we realize that for the future, we need to have a different system. We need to listen more to the young. We need to listen. We get the wisdom from the elderly. So saya muda lagi lah, tengah-tengah. So I'm okay lah. So I will listen. I will learn to do rubric from Dr. Ong, and I also must learn how philosophy. Ya ampun, my philosophy question. YB Senator in my economics. Okay, my economics class. I remember where is where. The question. Dalam bahasa Melayu dia, di mana itu di mana? Ya ampun, until now I do not know how to answer. That is to show he who knows not, I would like to quote the people who says that orang yang hebat adalah orang yang tahu yang dia tidak tahu. So I have reached that stage. Yang I sebenarnya so many things that I do not know. The only thing that I know is that I know that I don't know. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Dr. Matt for sharing. Banyak isu yang Dr. Matt kupaskan. I thought it really shaped social sciences and humanities and the arts for people and economy. Interesting concept. Sebab ni panjang sangat lah nama dia, macam tak boleh jual pula kalau orang kan. Steam tu dia short and sweet. The shape ni macam panjang. Tapi I understand your point. I think a place. There's a role for arts and humanities in the world, and I think it's not against STEM, STEAM pun, STEAM
Yeah.
ataupun STEM. It's complementary, and I think the context is interesting because STEM is about arts, but STEM itself, number of students and teachers are declining actually. So it could be worrying because when we want to achieve SPG 2030, SDG 2030, we might need a balance of both. I want to go to this question in the chat, and this soalan sangat-sangat menarik, sangat panas. I think this is both for YB on camping and Senator Muhammad Faisal. There's another question just now, but that was about the logistics freight forward issue. But I think that has been talked a lot already. So if you don't mind, and the audience don't mind, sorry, kita jump into the second one. In terms of what is the outlook of political alliances? This is a very interesting question because what has been happening is I think a lot of talk of post-electoral coalitions. In fact, Pakatan Rakyat 2008 was formed after the election. To some extent also a lot of the signals by political parties also want to say that they want to form at least by UMNO want to form a coalition after election, post-electoral coalition. I know this is not part of the ambit of the session, tapi sorry Marcus, kita mungkin kita terpesong sikit, soalan sangat panas. So maybe I want to ask Wajon Keming first, and then we will add Muhammad Faisal into the discussion in terms of the outlook of political alliances. And the question actually is the second part of the question is, should DAP work with a strong Malay party, whether it be UMNO or Bersatu? So YB Keming, what is your thoughts on this?
Yeah, thanks. Very, of course, a very politically relevant and salient question. And we have already seen how this has manifested itself in the possibility of a government where there could have been UMNO aduns as well as DAP aduns together with PKR and Amanah in the state of Malacca. Of course, that issue never really came about public. The discussion on that was never, didn't go to a stage whereby we needed to take it that seriously, given the fact that the Malacca Dun has been dissolved. Although there may be some legal challenges to the process by which it was dissolved. But I think we also need to look at the kind of things that have been happening in other states other than Malacca that shows the realm of possibilities moving forward. So for example, we had a situation whereby in Perak, for example, UMNO worked together with the Pakatan Harapan reps, namely DAP, to change the Menteri Besar from Bersatu Menteri Besar to UMNO Menteri Besar. And there were certain institutional reforms that were introduced, such as equal constituency allocation and also some participation in some of the state government policies, especially at the local level. Right, so I think that sets the tone for us moving forward to a more mature politics. And if you look at countries like Germany, it's quite common for there to be grand alliances between, for example, the Christian Democrats as well as the CSU, the Socialist Democrats. And now probably you'll have a government including the Green Party as well. So this is not something that's unprecedented. And I think the important question for us to ask is what would make these kinds of new political alliances acceptable to the public, number one, and number two, to the supporters of the respective parties, and then number three, to the members of the respective parties. So for example, if DAP were to work with UMNO, what would need to transpire or happen such that UMNO grassroots and UMNO supporters would see DAP as a stable and reliable working partner after demonizing us for the better part of 60 over years. And then DAP at the same time, we also have to convince our supporters and members how is it that we are able to work with UMNO after criticizing them for the better part of 60 years as well. right? So, we need sort of like a transformation in the way we think and operate. And I think, given the fact that I think most people, most Malaysians and even politicians like myself, we are probably quite sick and tired of, the political maneuvering and gamesmanship that's been happening over the past 3 years. And I think anything that can give the rakyat some level of stability, especially as we're still coming out from this COVID crisis on the economic standpoint, will be something that will be good for the country moving forward. But then there needs to be certain conditions and parameters that we need to change for that to happen.
Understood. So not being rigid or ideological, but pragmatic, so that we can move forward, move the country forward. YB, Senator Muhammad Faisal, your take?
Yeah, interesting. Will there be new realignment or new alignment of Malaysian politics coming GE15 when it comes to possible coalition with DAP or Bersatu, DAP, UMNO? I think, yeah, the options are always there for everyone to come out together and form a alternative government or model. But as what Dr. Ong Kiam Ming said, there must be a proper discussion between the parties on certain principles, and I think if we arrive at the same understanding, like what has been ratified during the MOU between the government and Pakatan Harapan, I think it's quite doable and probable. And well, sadly, Malacca should be one of the first testing ground for this kind of coalition, as what we know, as what we told by UMNO State Liaison Head, Mr. Rauf, that he already reached out to the AP earlier, but sadly, things don't happen. But I believe the younger generation or the younger politician might have different ideas. Yeah, and I myself, I believe, for the sake of stability for the country, I think bipartisanship is the way forward. There should be more initiatives from both sides to come together when it comes to certain issues, especially education. Education should not be politicized. If we set a proper goalpost, we should stick to that goalpost or to that particular blueprint. Ni menteri baru masuk, ubah. Macam mana civil servant tak pening kan? And also parents and students, I think we must come together in this aspect. And when it comes to the pragmatic question of whether the AP needs a Malay political party, I think any particular bloc, whether government or opposition, must include a strong Malay-led political party. Prior to previous election, I think we all know Tun Mahathir was one of the major factors that really helped tilt the balance. And never before UMNO lost an election, just because one of the former UMNO leaders formed coalition with the opposition. I think that really helped to change the tide. I think this time around things are different. There are no major issue except cluster mahkamah. Yeah, if that is not being resolved, that could be one of the major issues that trigger the rakyat. But rakyat is, I think, in general, are tired of political bickerings and also Lopak Party. Let's be honest about this. Yeah, so I think the way forward is about how best to ensure the best formula of that can ensure a stability after election. That depends on how strong the coalition. It could be before the election, it could be after election. Yeah, but I believe better set the parameters straight before election. What kind of government the coalition would like to offer. Pakatan Harapan may have their own formula. Then Perikatan Nasional plus Barisan Nasional could be on the line. There could be another third force coming from Muda Warisan, which I heard a rumor wants to contest in Semenanjung. So it's going to be interesting buffet for rakyat when it comes to democracy. But I think one thing that we can learn from this, there will be no longer a dominant or hegemony in Malaysian politics. especially coming from a Malay-based political party. The Malays have learned a very powerful lesson last election that UMNO is not the sole protector of their rights. It could be Pakatan Harapan, it could be PKR, Amanah, DAP, and others. And I think this is a good change, because if we want to reform our domestic politics, Malay politics has to be transformed. This is my firm belief. Failure to do that, we will not be able to make a proper change, because of you see, the Malays, they are not, maybe the urban people have different views about politics, but the rural, the Malay heartland, there must be a proper strategy how to engage them. Cannot be too drastic, too fast. It has to be some familiar ideas about change that the Malay can accept, and slowly, gradually, I think we can really see some changes in Malaysian politics when it comes to coalition building. Yes, I do believe. And also DAP. I hope DAP can make a proper transformation. I heard quite interesting rumors coming ahead, but I don't want to share here. But let it happen first, and hopefully things will be more positive for everyone. I think DAP must not be demonized for the sake of they being seen as a Chinese-dominated party. I think DAP is more than that. I believe so, and I think the only way to tell it is in what kind of leadership DAP will be figured out before the GE15. So, as I said, GE15 will be a very interesting battle.
Thank you, Representative. So many interesting points, but not enough time. Very interesting take by Wadi Gaming and Representative Muhammad Faisal. This will be injustice if we didn't include Dr. Matt, because I think it's also interesting to know what is your take in terms of the politics from Borneo, from Sabah and Sarawak, because I think for many people in Semenanjung, they don't really understand in terms of how does parties in Sabah and Sarawak, how do they factor in this equation? Because the discussion on the question has been very Malaya centric. So what is your take in terms of next election, the political configuration from the Sabah/Sarawak perspective, if you don't mind sharing your personal opinion.
Thank you, Zaim. I'm really not the right person to answer this question, but from my personal take, number one, I still think that the current government will, the current political party, nama pun GPS, meningkat kepala juga tu, GPS. We were thinking of why GPS, so you're talking about direction. For this coming election, I foresee, because a lot of discussion were going on, they are very, very, very strong. Now, the interesting thing is, like you were saying, what I can see is this issue not during but more during the celebration of Hari Kebangsaan and Hari Malaysia. Now, that is an interesting indicator that should be viewed. I think KL should look at that. So maybe YB Senator, when you it's good if the two of you and YB can Minister, pergilah turun ke Sarawak during Hari Kebangsaan yang yang kita call 31st of August, and then you go during 16th September. The issue of Sarawak for Sarawakian, Sabah for Sabahan has never been more vibrant as you see now. So jadi, I think the changes are happening. There are changes, and like as you have rightly mentioned, the youth are really playing a very important role. But in Sarawak, the political party are still very strong. Although there are a lot of changes in Peninsula lah. Kalau kita dengar tadi, we see convergence. We see people are talking that they say there is no more hegemony. But because in Sarawak, kami memang tak ada pun, because we don't have anything like UMNO. We don't have anything. Well, we do have DAP. That's why they were very worried when UMNO. That's one political party they will not allow from KL, because they know what it is going to, the impact it will have on Sarawak politics. So that is a point that I would like to share. But the issue of Sarawak and Sabah making demands, a lot of people always say, oh, dia kata ni Sabah dengan Sarawak ni tak sedar diri ni, nak 20 point lah, nak 18 point lah. It is because our history books, it is because of the way things were, portrayed on our media. Now, dia dah jadi extreme, no? It can be extreme left or the other extreme to the right. Ini yang menjadi masalah dia sekarang. Because the issue with SOCMEC, kita nak mencari what we call titik pertemuan tu dah find it very, very difficult. Sometimes you come to the point you don't really know who is right and who is wrong. Now it is a war of perception. Now, who controls the social media will be at the upper hand, not the mainstream media. Sorry, now they're no longer mainstream. The mainstream media now is social media. So kesian lah, siapa yang menjadi menteri di whatever lah, menteri RTM ke whatever, kesian dia. So they really have to change. So the word here is change. The word is transformation. So maybe not in the immediate election lah. I don't foresee. Maybe I'm wrong because I don't come from politics. But I can sense from the ground that it's still very strong. But urban areas, there will be. I think DAP will still have a very strong stronghold. So, cuma what I'm concerned about, there are evidence of religious extremism coming into our state that has not been really it doesn't come out very obvious, but I'm working with Suhakam. So these are the kind of issues that are coming in, and we can see that our communities dah berani bawa spanduk. Bila silap aja buat penceramah silap aja on social media, zap dia akan pergi ke polis buat report. So these are the kind of the new the NGOs are no longer like the NGOs of the past. So there are many of them are educated, many of them are trained in the West, both as like individuals, but they hate a lot of NGOs. So I think now I see, but I mean, listening to both our YBs here, I feel, wow, so optimistic. I'm so happy. Suddenly they were talking about, DAP did, they were talking about being, about humanizing, to demonize. Ya ampun, I kata, dulu nobody dares to talk about it, or DAP or UMNO and blah blah blah. So, but now it's an open. If we don't talk about it like what we're doing now, it will be out in the social media. So we have a choice whether we want to talk about it in a manner like well moderated, or macam tadi disebut, case Adib is coming back. So these are issues that we need to grapple with. Yeah. So thank you, Zain.
Thank you, Dr. Matt. So many interesting points also you mentioned. I think the short answer is there is impact. Actually, Sabah and Sarawak does play some role when it comes to national politics. And I think, Dr. Matt, you mentioned something that was actually very interesting. I am a student of history, very keen student of history. I actually did very well from my sejarah juga, masa SPM tu. And I memorize this very, very well. Yang 20 point, 18 point tu, how I memorize is, which one is Sabah, which one is Sarawak. Usually what the technique is, Sabah nak lebih sikit. So 20 point tu Sabah, 18 point tu Sarawak.
Okay.
Ini masa one of this is during the Cobalt Commission, if not mistaken,
Right.
during the negotiation for 1963. So for people watching, remember, Sarawak 18, Sabah 20, Sabah nak lebih sikit 2 point. But this is important discussion because I think a lot of times we don't factor in Sabah Sarawak when we talk about national politics, and I think this is an injustice lah. I think they are equally they are equal partners that actually form Malaysia in the first place, right? So they must be in the equation. We're running out of time, only 5 minutes left.
All right.
So I want to ask each of the panelists. This has been such an interesting discussion. Tak time lah, dah lebih sejam 20 minit lah actually. And also, want to let YB on coming rest also kan, because dah lama nanti on coming tak siap nanti. So the question is a call to action specifically for communities and young people, because sometimes when we talk about these issues kan, they seem to be up there lah kan, 50,000 feet. But what can a person who may not be in politics, may not be in policy, may not even be the NGO, just a normal rakyat marahan, rakyat biasa, orang biasa, what can they do if they are interested to promote a stronger Malaysia, a more unified Malaysia, a more competitive Malaysia? what is your advice? Just, if you were talking to just orang biasa, maybe if YB Academic, if you imagine talking to a constituent dekat Serdang, dekat Bangi, he ask you, what can I do, YB, to help Malaysia become a better country? For YB Senator Wan Faizal, the question is, imagine the person is BT Wangsa ataupun Bagai Zerai, dia tanya soalan, YB Senator, apa yang boleh saya buat sebagai seorang rakyat biasa untuk menambahbaikkan negara kita ini? And for Dr. Madeline Burma, student in UKM ask you, kan, man, no, I'm not like you. You are so powerful. You're Dato. I'm just a nobody. Kan? What can I do?
So powerful.
What can I do as a student to help better the country? So this is my 3 questions for the 3 panelists, and after that we will close the session. So when we start dengan YB Academic, YB Senator Wan Faizal, and also then Dr. Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Zaim. I started the session with talking about leadership, especially in the political arena, and then I'll end my session with talking about leadership, especially in the political arena. If I were to talk to a young person who wants to find out more about how he or she can play a role in membuat Malaysia kepada satu negara yang lebih progresif, yang lebih inklusif, I would say this: try to get political exposure by being an intern or being a volunteer at the office of a politician that you respect, right? Not just join any person, because I think one needs to be discerning when making choices. And here I'll make a little plug for myself. Over the past few months, I've had the pleasure of having about 13 interns come to my office, and I think in the maximum I had about 10 interns doing different things, including political research, as well as doing things in my constituency. So for example, many of them had a good experience in being volunteers when I worked together with the Malaysian Red Crescent to do mobile vaccination in different parts of my constituency, mostly reaching out to non-citizens, but also some citizens. Right, so this is a part and parcel of how you can expose yourself to the challenges of the community, to be able to see some of the areas where you normally don't see, especially in some of low-cost apartments that we went to give baku makanan and to distribute fresh fish and all that. And they also do certain activities that get you closer to the community, like running in a track that I upgrade in section 15 Bandar Baru Bangi, or maybe going down Sungai Langat so that you can see all the rubbish that's been thrown inside and the water, the soil erosion that's taken place. Then you'll be able to see for yourself what are these kinds of challenges and what an MP, what Adun, what Ali Majlis can do to try to resolve these problems, and then also the ongoing challenges that make some of these problems not so easy to resolve. Yeah, so that's my advice.
Just a quick follow-up, and then I'll also do a follow-up for all the different panelists because it's more interesting to follow up. Thank you for reminding me of Bangi. I actually used to go to sekolah Bandar Bangi Jalan 2. Thank you for reminiscing. If the person is a bit older, so not necessarily a young person, but what if the person is maybe 30 or 40? What do you still recommend the person intern with you, or maybe what can the person do? Can the person, like you mentioned, your second point was you mentioned about getting involved in the community. Let's just say the person is a bit older, a bit more busier. How would you approach this question?
Oh, then I would ask the person to contribute his or her expertise to help the communities that his expertise can be useful in. So for example, if this person is a lawyer, then if let's say there are cases that I can refer to him or her from the community, if he or she is willing to do it on a pro bono basis or reduced fee basis, then that is one thing. I recently also did some pro bono consulting for SME companies that ran into problems during the MCO, and I had about 10 to 15 consultants join me on a pro bono basis as well, people in their early 20s to those who are in their 30s and 40s. And they were able to contribute their own expertise to follow up with some of these SMEs and give them advice on how to make their businesses more resilient during MCO. So definitely there's different avenues in which different people of different backgrounds can contribute. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, YB. I asked the question because a number of people in this chat also are not necessarily below 30, not even below 40. It might be above 40. So thank you for the advice. I think that's very, very helpful advice. YB Senator, nasihat pada penduduk di Titi Wangsa ataupun Bagasarai ataupun di mana-mana saja di Malaysia, and maybe tak semestinya muda pun, maybe orang yang lebih tua, what is your nasihat kepada orang?
Okay, depends. I think in rural areas, besides schools, religious institutions play a very important role for social awakening. So the role of scholars or imams, ustaz, I mean the Malay community at least, are very crucial in changing the society. Kalau dulu, that's why UMNO in the past, 40, 50 years ago, they were mostly led by the teachers, because the teachers were the closest social change agent in the community. Yeah, but as time goes by, UMNO, as UMNO become richer, the one that that's been leading UMNO were contractors, and so I think that's basically speaks volume lah how politics have changed. But for students, for university students, my advice or my suggestion would be try to, besides becoming interns at a political office, perhaps one of the best ways to become more, to contribute back to nation building is to interns at NGOs. When I was a university student, I frequently go up north and work with Consumer Association of Penang, CAP. I think you ask me, CAP was one of the most important body that has shaped my idealism as a student activist, not political parties. Yes, I was in PAS when I was in UTP, but PAS gave me that political formation because I was more into the Dawah group. But the one that gave me the intellectual input and idealism was the late SM Idris. He shaped my thoughts a lot, and I'm grateful for that. And I always spend my days studying documents at CAP, at Friends of the Earth Malaysia, Sahabat Alam Malaysia. That's how I got into this policy thingy. Later on, when I realized, okay, not enough to be in NGOs, you must be involved in politics. Only then I slowly enter into politics. After knowing policy, after knowing about important books, documents, journals to be read, after being informed about such tapestry of policy making, only then I become more aware that change can only be made if you are part of a larger cause. And of course, that larger cause would normally be political party, but it depends. I realized 2008, when I was still a student, I was so inspired by the rise of young Turks in keadilan, Nick Nazmi, Rafizi, Amin Ahmad, all those, now they are Menteri Besar lah, all, they're holding many positions now. Because I remember Anwar always challenged them. This is the good part of Anwar. Anwar has the ability to really inspire youth. He said, well, it's not enough for you to criticize the government in London. You study in King's like Nick Nazmi, you come back, prove your mettle, be part of the struggle. And they joined PKR, and PKR, being fair to them, given the opportunity to contest, and they became MPs at a young age and inspire a lot of other generations to be in politics, which quite difficult to be in UMNO then, yeah, and now I think still is. So these are part of the changes that I think, because you see, most of the young leaders in PKR, I always view them as a good role model in political participation. They were groomed in UKEC, the platform that was non-political, but something to do with nation building in UK and Ireland. So I think the same thing in Malaysia. People like YB Shah, he was part of the aspirasi, yeah, in UKM, and I myself, Aji Karir, we were in UTP, we were the same, we were in PAS campus. So these are the platform that we will belong to, but my personal experience, I gain more insights from my involvement with NGOs rather than political parties. So begin with that, because that's the foundation, the knowledge that you need the most when it comes to political participation. Because if you just join politics, you will be definitely dragged down to the mud. It's all about power. It's all about power struggle, position. Ideas, I think Dr. Nkiamin can testify this. Maybe DAP has different culture, but in Malay politics, ideas don't really matter. It's about being popular and about patronage. I think Dr. Madeline, you know about this. So I don't want this to be the norm in Bersatu, in Armada. So I slowly try to change the culture, or try to stop the bad culture from previous party to, change the social fabric of Bersatu. So hopefully my crusade worth a salt, and please pray for us, and hopefully we have a good GE15.
I mean, can. But I mean, just to ask you a quick follow-up, just a quick response. And if someone is interested on the political track, and maybe more interested to be under your wing or with Armada, what will be your advice for this person? I know this is not a political forum, but I'm just asking in terms of specific advice to be more involved with you. If someone is listening and he or she is interested to be more involved in the work you do, what would you advise him or her?
To be involved in Armada or Bersatu? Is it?
Terpulang with you ataupun with your movement?
It depends. I will definitely judge the person first, whether if they want to be part of politics, more than happy, they can register with Bersatu members in any of the division all over the country. But if they're not interested to be politicians, but they just want to be involved in the thick of the action, they can always be part of any particular body, NGO, that are affiliated to us. For example, Institute Masa, which can really help us craft policies, because it is helmed by Tan Sri Muhyiddin. He's the chairman of the Institute Masa. But it's not really, it's Bersatu centric, but it's meant for all. So I think this is one of the good platforms. And at the moment, from our side, like any other political parties, we are crafting and formulating our own youth wing in campus. Hopefully, this can facilitate interesting students to be part of this journey, whether you want to be part of the party or just want to be involved in the campus politics. I think we can offer that experience, and hopefully they will be part of the journey before the transition. Either they want to become part of us at outside at the division level, or they can just join other more apolitical platform. As long as we have that platform, the choices are there for youngsters to choose. I'm more than happy to facilitate them.
Thank you, Wadi. And refreshing also to know that you and YB are encouraging diversity in political choices, not to just join your party because you're there, but also to also give the option for young people. Speaking of that, give the last the special moment for Dr. Madeline. No pressure. No, but Dr. Madeline just reset the question kan. So student ni dia macam dia rasa Dr. Madeline ni power pasal dia datuk kan. So
ada datuk lah kan.
But the student dekat UKM wants to be a social change agent. What will you be your advice for the student?
Thank you, Daim. I will share with you two things I would like to share. Number one, baca. What I've learned for more than 30 over years in the university, when I came in, we see students going to libraries. We see students hanging out in libraries. Now I don't even see students hanging out in libraries. Yeah, maybe because of digitalization and everything. During my generation, I can go, I even know where, dekat rak buku tu. Because at the zaman dulu in economics, it will be HA, HB, HC, HD. So don't go to other section. Now, my student can graduate, or my student, whichever student, they can graduate without even stepping into the perpustakaan. To me, it's one of the biggest sin in education. You have not stepped into a library. You know, when I went to, of course, when I was in England and masa dekat England, the first thing I wanted to do, I must visit Cambridge, I must visit Oxford. You know, all the names, of course, King's College, sebab dekat mana kan, but Oxford in Cambridge here. The moment I sampaikan, it's just like macam orang Islam mungkin lah, masa naik haji tu. You know, when you see the Kaabah, you know. So I always tell my student that, you know, I said, whenever you go to England, jangan nak sibuk nak pergi tengok apa nama tempat Queen tinggal, apa nama istana dia. Okay, I said okay lah, boleh lah untuk selfie. But I said, go to the universities. You see how student duduk berbincang. I said, I don't see any of you berbincang. Alah doktor panas, dia kata. Whatever alasan. Okay, number one, read. You know what? In my class, student, I caught them. You know what I told them? I need only Madeline can ask. Tell me, apa yang disebut dalam Iqra? Perkataan itu Iqra in Islam. Student quietly said, bacalah, dia kata. See, I told you, bacalah. Ada dia kata cut and paste. And then my student terkebil-kebil, don't know what to say. See, I said, even the first, if I'm not mistaken, the first word, right? They said, bacalah. Dia tak ada kata pergi tonton TV ke, pergi buat WhatsApp ke, you know. So the importance of knowledge acquisition. So I really love it. You know, Dr. Ong, when you first came, I remember when YB Lim Guat Eng first entered his office, you were one of those that he was, and I was saying, wow, I said, this is the kind of, you know, minister that we're going to have in the future. So bila dia bercakap pasal ekonomi tu, I kena dengar lah, you know. So things like that, you know, like you say, you need to have that wow factor, you know. So number one, baca lah. What is happening now, Zain? I'm not saying that students don't read, but now they read only PowerPoint, the power that points. You tanya dia buku, they can graduate without completing a single book. All right? I used to tell them, when you go for an interview, if you go to become an academic, people ask you in economics, what book do you read? Dia tak tahu. Sebab dia cuma baca nota kuliah pensyarah dia, itu pun kalau dia baca, normally dia baca only the PowerPoint. Aduh, I said, bagus juga, because I love juga student baca PowerPoint, but I said, that's not books. You see, ada orang ketawa kat situ. So, basically what I need is that for student, you know, cultivate that reading culture. You can see a difference between a person who reads, or he or she who reads, and those who don't. Watching TV is okay, fine with me. That's number one. Number two, budaya tak kisah. Ada ku kisah. Ya ampun student, I tell you, you can WhatsApp them, ada ku kisah, dia tak jawab pun. Ni pensyarah ni nanya ni. You know, sometimes kalau dia nasib baik, you will get an answer called K. And I don't even know what K is. Initially, I thought it is one of those, you know, when you do econometric modeling, it's one of the variables, a K. So they just put a K, and I will have to ask them, K tu maksudnya apa? Later I found out it is okay. Okay, but now I'm computer savvy. Now, another thing that I would like to highlight today, they were talking about internship. They were talking, and Dr. Ong, you were talking about, because I live in Bandar Baru Bangi. So thanks for asking me about Pasar Borneo. So I am the type yang pergi, memang I am a person yang on the ground. So I really believe in engagement. I believe in internship. But most importantly for me, coming from me, I believe in having them hang around public intellectuals also. Not just politicians, not just academics or whatever, but public intellectuals. Individuals who are change makers, if you want to use the word change maker. They don't have to be politicians. So besides, you know, being intern to politicians, people who bring changes to society, you know, because we need this kind of people in our society. And I think we are slowly losing. You know, when my Indonesian students come, you rasa macam langit dengan bumi perbezaannya. Bila dia articulate a point, I will nganga. Sebab sebelum dia menanya soalan, student I tergagap-gagap, terkial-kial. Not that they do not know, but the concept of articulating ideas, you know, because reading, poetry tak ada, music apa tak, you know, sebab semua mungkin semua tak boleh. Sebab it will avoid, benda ni akan mengganggu dia orang dapat A dalam exam nanti. But now that you realize COVID say A ke tak A. So public intellectuals, the last word that I would like to say, I must say it, I would like to quote a word from Einstein. Because I remember when I went to the Hiroshima, I entered the museum. So I was like, gerun I nengok. And I was reading through the words. And then suddenly there was this Einstein punya quotation. And why it was an Einstein punya quotation? You know, Hiroshima and Nagasaki was bombed during the Second World War. And Einstein was one of those who was against the project. So this is the word that he said. And I always remind my students, the world is a dangerous place to live in, not because of people who do evil, but because of people who just sit down and let it happen. That is the problem with us, because kita nengok benda, peduli apa? Anyway, dia bukan orang Iban. Why do I care? Dia tu orang Cina, dia orang Melayu. I always ask my student, what if suddenly something happened to me on the road? Mesti orang tanya, dia Cina ke? Dia Iban ke? Tak ada orang tanya. Dia, you know, whatever. We are so bogged down with ethnicity. So I'm so glad to see our two young YBs, you know, giving us hope. Yeah. So we need more of this kind of narrative. We need more of this kind of conversation. Politics is politics, parliament is parliament, but we need this kind of discussion. So that's basically it. The world is a dangerous place to live in, not because of people who make mistakes, but people who sit down and let it happen. Thank you, Zain.
Thank you, Dr. Madeline. Very comprehensive advice. Read. Please,
Hang out with
care about society.
what is happening around us.
And also hang around public intellectuals. Very, very good advice. I think we will end on that note. Thank you for the participant. Memang we were at about 30 to 40 just now, and the number retention is very high. The people that have been here. They have not gone anywhere. So thank you for being with us. And thank you also to the panelists, Don Kenning, Wabi Senator Muhammad Faizal, Dr. Lee, Madeline Burma. Especially thank you to Don Kenning, even though you know you have you're down with the virus, but at least you are with us. Thank you for making time. And with that, I think we will call it a day, call it a night. I don't think kita akan bawa balik markers, tapi rasa kita call it an end here. So thank you all for joining. I think just a call to action, if I'm not mistaken, maybe I take one for Marcus punya call to action is to visit the Academy Harimau Asia punya website, because the website harimau.asia, so the website is harimau.asia, and also the Facebook, check that page to join C40, Communities for Tomorrow, and to join the WhatsApp group also, so that you can be informed of the activities that we will be doing in the future. So with that, thank you so much, and we will see you when we see you. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Matt. Dr.
Thank
Kenning.
you.
Good night. See you guys.
I
Thanks.
shared my WhatsApp in case nak cerita pasal wire and Wi-Fi.
Okay.
I shared. YB, Senator, thank you so much.
Sure,
Dr.
sure.
Ong, keep up your good work, both of you. We need more politicians like both of you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.